Well, let's have a close look at what makes Rome so special. Landing at Rome's Fiumicino Airport. Get to baggage claim. Wait around for 10-15 minutes for all the bags to show up. Right away we get used to carrying our own suitcases because that's what we'll be doing throughout this tour. And we are out the door, into taxis, and driving into downtown Rome. It's a short ride. Depending on traffic, it'll take you about 40 minutes or maybe 1 hour at most. And right away, the first thing we're doing is looking at food. These olives are quite unique to Rome. They are fresh olives, just lightly brined, fruits and vegetables, salads. This is where a lot of the chefs in town come to pick up their food for their day's cooking as well. Campo dei Fiori is the complete food market with the fresh produce in the center and restaurants all around it. There's pizzerias, there's pasta, fresh made, and it's really a lot of fun. Now, it might not be the finest gourmet food that you've ever had, but it's really casual and it's a great setting, and the food is really quite good. And we found that the service was very friendly here. There's about 10 restaurants all around the Campo dei Fiori, and they're popular at lunch and right on into the evening for dinner. You can get a whole variety of fresh kinds of pasta, little twisted types, and macaronis, the fettuccinis, tagliolini, all fresh made right there in the restaurants. And then we take a little stroll heading down the Via Giubanari. It extends right out from Campo dei Fiori, passing another little favorite spaghetti joint, into Rascioli Bakery. This is really quite a famous spot. Fresh baked goods. Our local guide is going to take us on a stroll for a couple of hours in this neighborhood, the historic neighborhood all around by the hotel area. And we begin our walking tour with our local guide Judy at the Pantheon. It's a perfect structure, still standing with its great dome intact after 1,900 years. It's situated on the Piazza della Rotonda, which has several overpriced cafes and restaurants, and a beautiful fountain in the middle with an Egyptian obelisk. The Pantheon was designed in part, they believe, by the Emperor Hadrian around AD 125, and it was built as a temple to all the gods. This is the best preserved building from ancient Rome. It dates back to the 2nd century, and it still has its original roof intact. It's an amazing dome up there. It was the largest dome in the world until this century, and forms a spherical space that creates a balanced feeling of harmony. Its spherical design takes the shape actually of a bubble on a barrel, where the height of 140 feet is equal to its width of 140 feet. So it's a dome atop a cylindrical base wall. We walk a few blocks with our guide Judy over to the Largo Argentina, an ancient site in the middle of Rome. These temples are so old, built more than 2,000 years ago, nobody has any idea what their name was or how they functioned. And then we took a look inside the Church of Il Gesù, which is the mother church of the Jesuit order. It's decorated in this highly elaborate Baroque style. And then stepping back out onto the streets of Rome to continue our walking tour with Judy, looking at the Fountain of the Turtles. This Renaissance fixture of 4 life-size naked youths standing on giant seashells and fish in the Piazza Mattei was designed by Giacomo della Porta. Continue into the ghetto neighborhood, which is not a slum, but it's the historic section where Rome's Jews were forced to live during the Middle Ages. It still has some Jewish character today, as you'll see in some of the windows with the Star of David and the menorah, and kosher items for sale. Walk towards the Portico of Octavia. It was built by Rome's greatest emperor, Augustus, as part of a large complex that has now been reduced to some columns and a facade and fragments which have actually been restored and renovated very nicely and well worth a visit to the Portico of Octavia. Continue with a visit to Teatro di Marcello, or Theater of Marcellus, just past the Portico of Octavia and easily reached via the new footpath. Capitoline Hill has got several very nice museums. This Capitoline hilltop is reputed to be the site of Rome's first settlement, 2,750 years ago, and it's been utilized ever since. This Piazza di Campidoglio would be considered the center of the world in the ancient days. And then on to the Roman Forum, which was the heart of Rome in the ancient days 2,000 years ago. There are some excellent views looking down at the Forum from the right and left sides of the Palazzo Senatorio. It's where the wealthy aristocrats had their palaces, and much of the typical life of the city took place here. The political life, the commercial life, and the legal courts were also there at the Forum. It was basically downtown Rome. This is where the Romans gathered 2,000 years ago for business, for gossip, politics, shopping, and just hanging out, just being here. It was the center of town. From the sidewalk, you can look right into the lower level of Trajan's Market. The largest building was the Basilica of Constantine and Maxentius. Its brick arches and roof soaring 115 feet high, covering an area the size of a football field. Well, it was originally used for a variety of purposes, including a courthouse and general gathering place. Continuing along in the Forum, the next major monument that you come to is the Arch of Titus, and it's got some relief sculptures on the inside commemorating the Roman sack of Jerusalem in the year 70 AD. Heading for the exit now and on to the Colosseum. Well, you're now facing the Colosseum, home of Rome's gladiators and the largest building ever constructed by these engineering masters of the ancient world. Admire the grandeur of this massive stadium, the model for all of our modern sports arenas. Packed with perhaps as many as 60,000 spectators screaming for blood nearly every day for 300 years. The Colosseum was the place where commoners could be entertained and relieve the tensions of their otherwise difficult lives. Most people lived in crowded, appalling conditions in ancient Rome, so this stadium played a role in keeping the public satisfied. At least they were not down on the floor getting eaten by lions or chopped up by gladiators. Bread and circuses for the people, and it was all free. The Colosseum still stands despite being looted for centuries as a marble quarry for the many palaces built throughout the city. And that wraps up our visit to the Colosseum. We get a nice view of the Arch of Constantine. This was a triumphal arch dedicated to the emperor who legalized Christianity, with a final view looking back over the Colosseum, completing our first day in Rome, and it was quite an afternoon, so we're going to take taxis back to the hotel.